Today we're going to be discussing an event that started with the CMPD at about 2 a.m. this morning, so earlier today. Keep in mind this is a very active, ongoing investigation, but in the spirit of transparency, we felt it was important to communicate what we know and what we can tell you at this time. Lieutenant Brian Crum of the CMPD is going to be our speaker today. At the end of his presentation, Lieutenant Crum will open it up to questions, but please, to our media partners, let's keep those questions specific to the topic at hand. Lieutenant?
Good afternoon. So this morning, shortly before 2 a.m., officers responded to the 300 block of Featherstone Drive. That's in North Charlotte. They responded to several citizen calls for service reporting that shots had been fired in the area. One of those callers also advised that they believed someone was trying to break into their home before they heard several gunshots fired. In fact, there were shots fired while our telecommunicators were on the phone with them. So this citizen calls for help. Hopefully we can share that audio with you later. We're working on getting that released to you so that you guys can hear what we heard. Our officers arrive within just a few minutes, about 4 or 5 minutes, and make contact with the person who had reported someone trying to break into their home, as well as several other residents on the street who were concerned about what was going on. So with the assistance of our community members, we were able to locate the person that was potentially involved in the calls for service or the reason for the calls for service. And we located at that time 32-year-old Javante Avery Williams. He was behind another home nearby on that same street on Featherstone. Officers immediately, when they saw Mr. Williams, realized that he was behaving erratically. His behavior was, he was excited in nature. He wasn't really actively communicating with officers and didn't appear to be in full control of his faculties. So officers began attempting de-escalation techniques, talking to him, trying to calm him down. During that time, they also asked for medic because of his behavior. So they were concerned about his well-being holistically. So as they attempted de-escalation techniques, Mr. Williams attempted to force entry to another home on that same street, at which time officers had to intervene and they took him into custody using what we would call soft empty hand techniques. They basically grabbed him, put his hands in handcuffs. They recognized that medical distress at that time wasn't just mental, but there was some other medical events going on with him. So they immediately placed him in the recovery position and had the medic respond that they'd initially asked for, let him know that we needed to help. So once medical personnel arrived, Mr. Williams was transported to the hospital and university area, and then he was transferred to Northeast Medical Center for more specialized treatment for his condition. Shortly before 10 a.m. this morning, Mr. Williams passed away as a result of the medical event. I think it's important that we note that this is considered an in-custody death because at the time that Mr. Williams passed away, he was not free to go. Officers had attempted to detain him while we were investigating the events on Featherstone. So for that reason, the SBI has come in to investigate. I think it's also important that we share with you some other facts that we noted. During officers' initial response, we located a handgun unattended in close proximity to one of the caller's homes. We also found evidence that that home had been shot into. There were also discharged cartridge casings. There were casings from a gun being fired on the scene, and narcotics were also, or suspected narcotics were located in close proximity to Mr. Williams. This investigation is very active and ongoing at this time. As I said, the SBI is here investigating the officer's involvement in the incident. The CMPD is conducting an investigation into that initial shooting call for service. And as always in any of these events, the Internal Affairs Bureau is conducting a parallel investigation into the events. I'll take any questions that you guys have right now, again, realizing that they're somewhat limited based on how early this is and the SBI's involvement.
Do you have any indication what led or preceded his medical event, like drugs involved, anything like that?
At this point, it would just be an assumption on my part. I can say that he was extremely agitated. It really didn't seem like he was in control of his faculties. So that's what, led us to that concern. But as far as what led up to the night's incident, it's a big question mark for us right now, and that's part of what we're trying to figure out.
Do you know, was there any change in his behavior from, when medic picked him up and when he ultimately passed away at the hospital?
No, he was certainly in medical distress from the time officers first saw him until, he was transported in the care of medical professionals.
Do you know what relation, if any, he had to this particular neighborhood he was in, or why he may have been there?
We don't know. The people we initially talked to didn't recognize him, but beyond that, what his relationship was or why he was there, that's part of what we're trying to figure out.
Is this someone you guys have come across to in the past at all that, anyone out there recognized that, from the department?
Mr. Williams, we don't know much about Mr. Williams at this point. That's what we're looking into. Yeah. All right, thank you, guys.
All right, to our media partners, we are going to be sending out a media release after this. That way you have that narrative in writing. We're also looking to disseminate the audio call for service that originally brought officers to that location. As always, thank you for joining us. And if you have any other questions, hit us up in that CMPD PIO inbox. Thank you.